So hello and welcome to another Lunch and Learn session sponsored by ATSU University Information Technology and Services Group. We're glad that you're with us for this broadcast from either Google Plus or YouTube. For those of you who have been with us before, you know that we conduct these sessions using video technology from Google Hangouts. And we've chosen to use Google Hangouts for the broadcast for a couple reasons. First, because it incorporates social networking and collaboration tools that we all want to get familiar with. But secondly, because it's available to everyone at ATSU. So everyone's got the tools, everyone can participate. We know that when it comes to communicating with these kinds of tools, many of us are just too busy with the day-to-day routine to kind of play with the new technology. So we hope you find not only that the topics and information are presented to you, but we also hope that by using this kind of a tool, you'll get more comfortable using this form of online interaction and use these Lunch and Learn sessions as an opportunity to experiment with finding better ways of communicating and collaborating with these tools. So we ourselves are still tweaking various aspects of these Lunch and Learn sessions. We're trying to figure out how to build better virtual community, share more ideas online, and really evolve our geographically separated campuses into a truly combined learning organization. So if you're participating for the first time, just sit back at your computer or your mobile device. You can be on mobile now. Just relax and enjoy. You don't have to do anything other than just watch the broadcast. Using Hangouts is pretty effortless, and hopefully you'll learn something from today's topic. But if you're a little bit more adventurous, or if you've been here before, then what we really want is for you to experiment with us by participating in the session. And participation is easy. You can add your comments to what we refer to as the chat room. And the chat room is simply the comment area for this event on Google+. So go ahead and just type in your own version of the hello world or I'm here into chat. Don't worry, you won't break anything. And we're all relatively new at this kind of online interaction, so think of it as a chance to play and learn, or learn through playing. We really encourage you to interact with others throughout the session, ask questions, share your opinions, post your thoughts, and really engage in some healthy and hopefully fun online discussion about the conversation going on online. And I always say you can even throw the virtual tomatoes by using those comments in the Google Plus event area. So we've got people monitoring those comments, and we'll try and bring those ideas into the discussion and include your questions during the session. So today I'm very pleased that we have with us ATSU President Dr. Craig Phelps. Dr. Phelps has been in the role of president now for, it's actually 130 days. I'm sorry, I was a bit off in thinking it was 120. But we're thrilled that he was game to try this format and speak to the ATSU community and others about his first 120 or 130 days as president. So please note that we've got JT Harris is the black screen down there. He's kind of monitoring the questions in the background. So that's the other box you see at the bottom of your screen. And then Jean Varnold is the one manning the cameras, so she's there, and she'll give a little wave as well. Okay. So great. Welcome, Dr. Phelps.
Thank you, Brian, and thanks to all those who joined us today. It's a privilege to come forward on a virtual basis and kind of hold the first town hall / interactive session. So thanks for setting this up, and looking forward to the next hour.
Yeah, this is great. I can see already that we have upwards of 65 people watching the broadcast, so that's great. It's a full room that you're talking to. So I thought maybe we'd start out by just tell us a little bit about how the transition to the role of university president's going.
So, first of all, thanks for all those who welcomed me in as president. It's been a great experience, a humbling experience. These are rare jobs, especially in an institution that's been around 120 years. These are privileges that we don't take lightly, and certainly our family is excited to be part of the ATSU community. And it's been a very smooth transition. I don't think the university hopefully has skipped a beat in its continued growth and execution of the strategic plan. Thanks.
Yep. A question that came from, we actually have a little a tool that allows people to ask questions before the session. And so one of the questions that came up was kind of how challenging is it to balance the work on both campuses between Arizona and here?
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge because you want to make sure you're taking care of both groups of of individuals, and you want to make sure that they feel that they're getting the attention that they need from the President's office and from all of the President's staff in general. And so it's a matter of making sure that the time is used effectively when on different campuses, that we're able to meet with the right people, have the right discussions, but also have time to get out in the community, build those connections, keep those connections going. So it's occurring in a natural way. I think it's been helpful to have a history in Kirksville and a history in Arizona. So a lot of those relationships are easy to move forward and have those discussions. During the interview process, my feeling was, in response to that, is you'll let me know the things that I need to be on campus for. So we think of things like graduations, we think of things like ceremonies that are important, that the President be there to support our academic and services. And then I think each campus will let me know if I'm not there enough. And I do appreciate when they say that. But I think currently we've been balancing about a 50-50 ratio between the two campuses as far as time on the ground and effort put in. But we'll see over the next year if that seems to be an adequate pace. And if not, then we'll try to make that the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, me as an IT techie guy, with tools like this that we're using right now, location matters less and less, I think, as we move forward.
I think so, but I do feel that having the ability for those in the organization to reach out and have an in-person discussion, and certainly there are ceremonies that I think, out of respect to the programs and respect to those involved, that being on the ground is a way to go. And I do want to thank your group for setting up the virtual idea box. That's been very helpful. It's been a tool that people have been able to make contact with the office on both campuses about a number of different things, and we've been able, at least in many ways, to make some strides in improving some things. And you're right, that virtual box is there, and it's been very useful.
Good. How's the family adjusting to the change?
Very well. Zach turned 5 on Monday. It's hard to believe he's 5, and he has just had a blast going back and forth between the campuses. And my wife, Stacy, once again, I wouldn't be able to do this job without her support. It's been wonderful getting out in both communities and being involved as much as she can. And they've been great support in this. And it's been very, very, I think, beneficial for me to see how they've engaged in both communities.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that it's a family event, probably. You see the elections and you see the family on stage, and it really does. It affects everybody. You didn't really come into the role of president as an outsider, and so I'm wondering, you had a lot of knowledge about the institution already. How has that kind of helped or hurt the transition?
Sure, that's a great question, Brian. I think no matter what job someone goes to, they bring a certain amount of past experience with them. Some people might say, biased or different look. I think you have to be conscious of that and, so to speak, take your hat off when you go into a new job, or even when you go from one campus to the other. And try to approach it from a new point of view. What could I be missing? What are some areas that we haven't thought of before? What are other people doing? What things can we do to make sure that we stay on the cutting edge of things? The important part, I think, of having the experience is things could move rather quickly. And we had a number of areas that we at the very beginning during a transition are kind of, unfortunately, normal kind of bumps in the road. There are things in process in HR. There are things in process sometimes in the business office. And when there's a transition, there's always, once again, some hiccups or some bumps there. And we try to minimize those, but those were probably some of the quick challenges and some of the things that, being at least familiar with the history and with the mechanics, that hopefully those were minimum bumps in the road. And certainly allowing people to come forward with their ideas and understanding some of those, hopefully, solutions to those ideas. It helped having a background of the institution. And remember, for 2 years, I spent a lot of time outside of the institution, traveling, looking at opportunities for the university, doing strategic initiatives. So when I came back, there had been a little bit of change. There had been some things that were new to me. So I also had that experience also.
I wonder if being an insider, do you ever feel like it's tough to get kind of an unbiased view?
No, once again, I think everybody brings some form of bias to any job or any opportunity, and I think being aware that you have that is really the key. And being able to, once again, take that hat off and look at things in a fresh way and be constantly reminded of that. I think you're going to have that no matter who comes into a position. If they come from another institution, they're going to bring that bias with them. If they're in this institution, they're going to have some biases. But so I think it's all about being aware of that and being conscious of that and making sure that you know that that could be a weakness and not letting it be one.
Sure, sure. How did you go about kind of preparing for the role? It's a fairly big shift, I would think, to go into the role of being responsible for the entire institution.
Yeah. So fortunately, I had the opportunity to attend several kind of new president courses and orientations and discussions about that, where experienced individuals that had been presidents or involved in administration and new presidents got together and talked about some of those areas that we need to be knowledgeable of and how to work in those areas and ways to be as productive and as possible early on. So those were very helpful. So there was a series of national meetings that I attended that were extremely helpful. Once again, President Magruder really offered a lot of information and was a very helping individual in getting me off to the right start. And the community in general was very supportive and very helpful, and that made me feel welcome. Once July 1st started, people were very helpful and willing to bring me up to speed in all different areas of the university. And I'm still learning, and I'll probably be learning as long as I am president. But I feel over these first 130 days that I've made contact with those people who can help me understand the inner workings of the university, and that's been very, very helpful.
Good. Yeah. Has it been what you expected, or have you run into any surprises or anything?
Boy, that's a great question. I think probably the most interesting part of it is that there are many, many constituencies in a university, and making sure that you're hearing and listening and being able to serve all these constituencies in some way and bring them together over time so they understand each other's needs and wants is probably something that you really don't know until you're experiencing it. So when you're thinking about the Arizona campus, then you immediately follow thinking about the Missouri campus. When you think about the athletic training program, you naturally transfer over and think about the physical therapy program. And so unlike maybe feeling like one piece of the puzzle has been in place, there's always another piece of the puzzle, another piece of the puzzle, another piece of the puzzle. So I found that was just kind of an interesting way that your thought process goes, is you're always looking out for all the different constituents and trying to bring them together in ways that they understand each other and can work together and prioritize.
Yeah, sure. I think our industry is a little bit interesting because really it's two industries. So you've got the parts that you think about from an education standpoint, the parts that you think about from a healthcare standpoint. And those are two areas that I think are changing a ton. So I'm curious to know, what are your thoughts on, what are some of the most important issues facing education, and what are some of the most important issues facing healthcare? Let's start maybe with education.
So I think your observation, and I think everybody in this chat room knows that they are the two kind of biggest areas facing challenges in our society. In education, we have competition from startup enterprises that view the education process in a completely different way. It's global. It is best practices. It's bringing people from across the country and across the globe together to educate and solve problems. Technology allows that information to be disseminated instantaneously for students and faculty to challenge each other in ways that were not done 10, 15 years ago. These are all, I think, really great opportunities for education. And as our economy begins and continues to face challenges with Medicare in the future, Medicaid in the future, Social Security in the future, the way we go about doing business will change, and it will change significantly. What I'm heartened with is the staff and the faculty here are so interested in making sure that they are in the forefront of those changes and that they create a sustainable university so the next 10, 15, 20 years, this university can go on and continue to flourish and continue to do wonderful and good things. The parallel is healthcare, and healthcare has gone through a lot of the things that education is now contemplating and going through. So looking at best practices, looking at quality, looking at effectiveness, looking at cost savings. As healthcare has been going through these changes over the past 10 plus years, education is now looking at some of the same challenges and some of the same changes that it will need to put in place. And I think healthcare will go through another iteration at a much faster pace, simply because of the system is set up in a more congruent manner than education is. In other words, education tends to be practiced differently from institution to institution, state to state, street to street. Healthcare has more national types of rules and regulations and formalities that can change at a much more rapid pace than individually education through its institutional presence does. So I think we'll see some rapid changes in healthcare around quality, accessibility, affordability, and I think those same things we're seeing in education. Quality, how do we measure quality? What are our obligations in measuring quality as a university and with each of our programs? Accessibility, are we creating a price point that's just too great that it's going to turn us from our mission and our vision? And then affordability, once again, quality, access, affordability. How do we make sure that we're using our revenues, both from a tuition standpoint, a gift standpoint, from a grant standpoint, in a way that that make our education affordable for students who want to come to AT Still University? So if you track the two, they're fairly close, and I think we can learn a lot from the healthcare industry and things that they're doing and best practices, and we can learn a lot from our history of 120 years of things that we do very, very well, and we can learn from our new schools, SOMA, and our new programs that are on cutting edge, that are doing some things differently, and not be afraid to break the mold, not be afraid to try new things. The thing that I worry about the most is that we become too successful and we don't continue to push, the bubble. And KCOM was one of the first to push the bubble, the osteopathic founding institution, and our other institutions as they came on were not afraid to push and try new things. It's easy to revert back. It's the easiest thing in the world. We've got to continue to push forward. If not, we won't be relevant and we won't be setting a new paradigm and be keeping up.
Yeah, I think it's a good observation that we think of them as different industries, education and healthcare, but when you state it like you did, they face a lot of the same issues: access, cost, and quality. So really, it's the same types of three issues, and I think there's a big push toward getting more data into both of those systems. How do we make data-driven decisions? With the election just having happened, and of course I follow a lot of the data blogs about projecting polls and whatnot. Do you think that there's any change with the election in terms of concern over growing government deficits, or the thinking on healthcare that are going to have an impact on ATSU specifically?
Yeah, I think all those things will have an impact on ATSU specifically, along with some of just the normal changes that our society is growing through growth and through aging and its needs that it's going to have. It's a perfect opportunity for AT Still University. I don't know how much is going to happen in regards to progress from a political standpoint unless both parties can come to some type of working agreement. And that's going to really be the key. Who among the legislators are willing to step forward and cross the aisle to work together, and how is the president going to strategize working with the Republican side of the houses to get things accomplished? If we don't do those things, then we're not going to be seeing a lot of progress in healthcare, in education reform, in our economy. We're going to go sideways. If we can come some way to work together across the aisle for the best interest of the country, then I think we're going to see some very important progress. In the meantime, we have a lot of things that are just going to continue to move along. We've got, once again, Medicare, Medicaid issues coming up severely after 2020, and we have Social Security once again starting to become a large issue once again between 2020 and 2030. Is if we don't get kind of our act together as a country, we face a lot of economic turmoil during that time.
Sure. So what do you see as kind of the major changes on the horizon, not necessarily in those industries, but more for AT Still itself, for the university?
Sure. So in the global sense, I think that things like using technology effectively, we've been, as I think, one of the leaders when we had the Compute Now first Apple kind of based campuses using computers. Certainly the iPad initiative here in Kirksville has been great. And if we look at each of our schools, they all have had really fantastic, innovative times from a technology standpoint. I think people have caught up with us, and I think we're going to have to look at the next wave of how we incorporate technology into teaching and learning. And I think the Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence we'll be looking at a lot of those ways to get that information out to our faculty in a very rapid way, that they can experiment, do some different things, use technology like we're using today. When we think of our campuses and how we reach out to our regional campuses, when we reach out to our students that are doing rotations, some on submarines and some internationally, we need to leverage this technology in the most effective way possible to get the best learning outcomes. I see that as just something that's almost our job, so to speak, and I think we do a fairly good job at that, and we need to continue to move that forward. I think another big challenge facing education are the cost. How do we get our arms around those costs so students have opportunities to go and practice their craft and use their knowledge in areas of need and underserved areas, and addressing those individuals. Once again, I think we do a good job. We try to set our cost slightly above the median, knowing that in a year or so we're going to be below the median, and try to keep things in that area. But over time, with an added degree of debt to get a bachelor's, plus a doctorate or a master's or certification, etc., we'll probably see a time where we've kind of reached the ability to push that tuition bubble, and we're going to have to rely on delivering it more effectively, in a more effective manner, to continue on. And there's fortunately, I think, a lot of great challenges and opportunities in doing that, but it will require all of us working together.
One of the questions that came in before the session related to the cost of education and student debt, and it was a question about within the strategic plan, there's verbiage discussing an increase in the number of student scholarships. Yes. And they were wondering, has there been any progress with regard to this objective? And if not, kind of what are the plans or what are the expectations for the creation of scholarship opportunities? Sure. Have you had a chance to look into any of that at all, or think through that at all?
Absolutely. So in the last 30 days, one of the things that we've done is met monthly with all of our president staff members, talked with each of the deans, each of the program chairs, and we've really talked a lot about things that they need to be effective, and scholarship has always come up in that, meaning scholarship funds. We have a diversity plan that's out there being reviewed this week, and once again, the key pinning of that is how do we make sure that we have the ability to attract quality students across the university, and also within that idea of diversity for the university. We met 2 weeks ago with two groups that come in and work with universities on fundraising, and we know that one of the large components of fundraising is going to be the student scholarship program. So we're working very hard to understand the needs and the dynamics, and we're working very hard to put together a plan that will specifically go out and address the issue of scholarships. Also looking at effectiveness, because if we can run the institution more effectively and keep our cost and our increased cost rate at a minimum, that will once again impact how much we charge tuition. So we have a lot of needs, and the market's going to change. We have to try to anticipate those as best as we can. but we realize that scholarships are very important. Also working at a national level with community health centers, NAC, our military, and other areas of need that can actually provide many of our students in some of our areas a full scholarship. We need to make sure that the students know that that's an option. So they can elect, once again, for a period of time, a payback that in some cases will pay the loans off at a more rapid pace, earlier, or loan forgiveness, and then other options where they can have their entire education paid for. So those are out there, and we need to make sure our students are aware of those. So, and I think Mr. Jordan and Lori Haxton's office and both campuses with our student services do a wonderful job, but we need to keep that option in mind for our students.
Yeah, I think cost is one of those concerns that all of us have. What do you see as kind of the major opportunities for ATSU?
Sure. So, Brian, I think you're just kind of asking in general opportunities or related to...
Well, I know we have some specific initiatives. So another question that came in, and maybe this is a different way to phrase it from Jim Ferris, is what are the main projects that are on your plate that will grow or improve the university? So what are those areas that we've got our opportunities? What are those things that we're actively working on?
So, you know, at the macro level, you know, once again, being in healthcare and education are probably, and of course technology, those three are the fastest growing parts of our economy. So, you know, we're very blessed in that we have a focus in two of those three in a major way, but really in all of those three. So this year, and you know, as Perspectives comes out, the little newsletter from the president, I'd encourage everybody to take a look at it. You don't have to look at my picture, but read some of the highlights of that. And what we've chosen to focus on is really executing the strategic plan. So the strategic plan was developed over about an 18-month period with input from both campuses, all constituents throughout the university, schools, departments, faculty, staff, students, outside information put in. And we have a very detailed strategic plan that if you haven't had a chance to review is probably worth at least a read through of it. But what we did was early on in the presidency this year, fiscal year, was look at prioritizing some of those. So we identified several areas, and I don't want to go through each of the areas, but I'll go through some of the major areas in relation to Dr. Ferris's question. So the first is looking at diversity, and how do we accomplish that in the strategic plan of creating a more diverse atmosphere that better reflects the patients that our students are eventually going to go out and serve, that better reflects the communities that we live in, and how do we approach that in a deliberate way. And we had a diversity committee produce an excellent document. That document went to the deans, went to the president's staff, and is back out to the community where it started to get input. And once we have that information, we'll sit down and do a reality check on, you know, what we think works, doesn't work, what we can afford, and put a budget to that, and then hopefully accomplish that part of our strategic plan in diversity. Currently underway are two others, the Center for Teaching and Earning Excellence and Interprofessional Education. In interprofessional education, I'll start with that, has made some great strides. If you think of having just discussions about it, 18 months ago to 24 months ago, it was just a concept, an idea. And now it's turned into be something that our students are heavily involved with, faculty and staff are participating in. It's modeling what's going on nationally as far as interest. We have some great collaborative, competitive things coming up across both campuses involving Truman, ATSU, Grand Canyon University, and it's exciting to see that moving forward. In process also is a white paper similar to what was distributed on diversity. That will come out for review for the president's staff, the deans, and for the community in general. We'll take a look at that, go through that process, look at it from a budget perspective, what makes sense, what can we afford, and we'll have IPE moving forward. And I hope that that occurs in a very short period of time over the next several months. And then the Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence, once again, ties into some of those opportunities of what we can do, and that's in process. Once again, under the same time frame as the others two that we talked about is coming forward. There should be a white paper. It'll go out for review, a dissemination, then assigned a budget, and that'll be moving forward. So if we can accomplish those three big tasks this year, we'll have made use of our strategic plan, which once again is focused on opportunities that the university should and needs to participate in. So thanks, Dr. Ferris, for that question. Also, in addition to that, we know that we have to have a good marketing communications arm for this university. And Jackie Forsyth has been putting together and working with staffs on both campuses to make that a reality. And I really believe by the end of this fiscal year, we'll be able to articulate a marketing communication plan that is worthy of AT Still University and where we want to go. We're also looking into, in addition to the marketing and communication plan, a fundraising capital campaign possibility that I mentioned earlier, bringing in consultants, looking at best practices, and finding out, what AT Still can and should do in regards to raising funds to support the educational enterprise and student scholarships and things we've talked about earlier. In addition, we have a couple projects. Obviously, the Missouri School of Dentistry and Oral Health is moving along. That's once again part of our strategic plan of serving the underserved and reaching out and diversifying our programs and making a difference in the healthcare of our nation. And then we have the San Diego project that's really in its infancy, that is really looking at all the opportunities out there, working with ASDO, working with ASHES, and looking at possibilities of what could be done in San Diego. So we're looking at a lot of those opportunities. We're pacing ourselves to make sure that we don't put stress on the university, both from a human resource standpoint, from an economic standpoint, but those are the areas that we're focusing on this year, and our opportunities, and things are moving very well in those areas. I think at the end of the year we'll be able to look back and say, we've accomplished some things in that strategic plan in a meaningful way.
Yeah, you're doing a great job hitting. I'm just checking off questions that have come in that you're addressing as we go through. So certainly with the top three, interprofessional education, there were some questions on. The Center for Teaching and Learning, there were some questions on. Diversity, I think with those top three, you've hit a lot. One thing that kind of hits on the Missouri School in San Diego, a question that's come in is, what new programs do you see coming down the pipe for ATSU? And talk a little bit about campus-based versus online-based and what some of the trade-offs are there.
So let me start with just some of the programs. We've gotten great support and knowledge from our existing deans and faculty members. So we always want to make sure that we include them in those discussions. And the way we usually go about new programs, and this is how we looked at Arizona, is doing a community assessment. What does a community need? What do they need in that community that's lacking? And seeing if there's a match for our current programs. Then what we also look at, because we're really a national school, our students come from all around the country. Maybe someday we'll even be an international type of school, but right now we're a fairly national school. So we also look at what our nation needs. What are some of the areas that are lacking as far as healthcare providers, regional areas that might be of concern, and how can we help solve that problem? So we feel that if we can provide a community benefit and a national benefit, that's the first part of the equation. Then it's looking at that need and then looking at our current and existing programs and having those discussions. Do we have programs that fit that need? And that seems to be a good formula. And then what we do is we look beyond that, and we talk to our deans, and we talk to our faculty and staff, we talk to our board of trustees, and then we talk to the community, once again, about areas that we don't have within the university but meet that community and that national need. For instance, nursing often comes up. And so what we've decided to do was reach out to Grand Canyon University and have a nursing presence on our campus in Arizona. In Missouri, we have Truman State, literally, quarter-mile down the street, that we're trying to bring into some of these IPE and some of these other areas that we talked about, and try to solve the problems that way. On our Mesa campus, we have the Mesa Community College that we did for a period of time, their dental hygiene program based in Arizona. So sometimes we use our program, sometimes we partner with other programs, and then if there's a need, then we may create some programs. So behavioral health has been something that's been talked about at the board level, all the way down to the program chair level. And is that something we should be thinking about? And so that'll be something that we'll analyze, we'll look at the role of behavioral health. Is pretty much everyone on this call knows it's one of the leading causes of disability in the United States, and I believe in California it is the #1 cause of disability. In behavioral health, going back to the roots of osteopathic medicine, the body, mind, spirit, the total person, the form and function, the body working as together as a number of units, but one unit in itself, just kind of fits some of the things that we think about regularly. So, for instance, in San Diego, looking at formula, wow, there's not a lot of health profession schools there. Is there a need regionally and locally? Yes. Many of their students come to our programs in Arizona. And the next is, what mix of those programs does ATSU currently have that would satisfy a city like San Diego? And does it make sense for us to think about some of our programs there? And then what does the community need? What do they really need? And when you think about San Diego with veterans, and when you think about San Diego with American Indian population, you think about the large community health center presence in the San Diego area, it makes you think about what are their needs and how can we put that together. So that may coincide with some thoughts we have on behavioral health.
Yeah,
that's a little bit of the process that we do.
Yeah, I think
technology. Sorry, Brian. Technology is going to have to be the way we do these things because we simply cannot progress in today's world without using the technology to whatever degree we can to make it as effective as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the approach of a community needs assessment is a great way to go. The question that then follows kind of after that is, how do you address that need? And that comes back to more with the residential versus online kind of trade-offs that we have. And from an investment standpoint, do we invest in physical infrastructure versus virtual infrastructure?
Sure. And health professions is probably one of your more challenging areas of education to put completely online because there are a certain number of skills and a certain number of things that technology has not been able to provide. So, for instance, when you think about our dental students, and in their second year, they're getting ready to go into the clinic, and by that third year, they're actually holding a high-speed drill in a patient's mouth that certainly could cause all sorts of untoward, effects, and we're removing teeth. And that's just one example. Our students are out on rotations in all of our areas of our residential programs doing things on people that could cause harm. So it requires a certain level of acuity and a certain level of alertness of how much you can deliver technologically at this stage of technology development versus how much has to be delivered in a very oversightful kind of mentoring, hands-on approach. And while technology is progressing in some of these areas, the residential component or a residential piece is very, very important in healthcare. That being said, as far as the delivery of some of the non-hands-on parts, I think we do a very, very good job of putting things in a technological form for individuals. But to meet the needs and the demands of the future, we're going to have to figure out, is it our role to step up and deliver things in a more technologically distributed way? Because I can guarantee if we do not, if ATSU University does not, others will, both for-profit and non-for-profit. And they will they'll jump ahead and they may capture markets that we should have, and they may capture some of our existing markets, people who are coming to us both technologically and residentially. So, once again, we have such a great faculty and great support staff that if we feel, as we continue to explore that strategic plan, that we should be stepping out there and doing some of these things, we'll find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, I think monitoring the technology is a big part of what the faculty actually does. There's the urology area is one where they're actually using robots for surgery type things, but certainly we're not instructing our students how to become urologists, right? But
well,
if you think,
not
at this point, but we're getting there. But if you think about kind of another example of technology that's not really virtual versus residential, is the use of the ultrasound machines in the curriculum. And I think putting technology or those types of technologies within the curriculum is another opportunity for us, so that we learn how to blend some of the technical components of education, or those parts of education where technology really lends itself well, with the hands-on side. And I think that's the strength that we kind of bring.
Absolutely. I think each of our programs, both distance programs, residential programs, advanced degrees, if you look at each one of those, they have areas of expertise, areas of excellence in online education. And audiology is kind of a great example. Look at all the technology that audiologists use on a daily basis. There's a lot of hands-on experience that they need to have. They go through their program, they go out onto their clinical rotations, they do a tremendous job keeping linked to the university through technology. And that was all brought about because of the idea of delivering an advanced degree online, using an innovative psychometric evaluation tool, and having a great leader like Tabitha Parent-Buck take on a challenge for a profession that was very interested in incorporating technology into their next level of practice. And that's just a wonderful example of a combination of online, residential, advanced degree, technology, practice technology. And we have a lot of those wonderful stories to tell within the university.
Yeah, another example is the electronic health record, is the marriage of technology and traditional type education. How do students learn how to use an electronic health record? Yeah.
Yep. And I think our students are over in our ASDO clinics, they're automatically using electronic records. When our students go out on rotations, oftentimes they're rotating in places that use the electronic record. And I remember one of our physical therapy students telling me early on, after we had graduated 2 or 3 classes, talk about her experience with a job interview. And she was being interviewed, and 2 physical therapy qualified candidates, and she was chosen because of the fact that we had a technology-based education. And that clinic knew that that was the future, and they were hiring her not only for her expertise in physical therapy, but the fact that she was technologically educated, because they knew their practice was heading in that direction. She was able to help take their practice to the next level because of her education at ATSU University.
That's great. Stories like that warm my heart. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and go into some of the questions that we gathered from people, and I'd ask people out there in the chat room, please, if you have any other questions, pop them in there, and we'll try and get them to Dr. Phelps here in the last 15 minutes or so. One of the questions we got is a little bit about ATSU's universitizing effort and how that's going.
Sure. So I'm not even sure if that's a word.
Yeah.
But
Put the air quotes out there.
No, I think it's really just a matter of us all working together and understanding that what's good for one program is good for all of us, and ways to foster that together. And I'll tell you, our students have done a wonderful job, and our faculty have done a wonderful job, and our staff have done a wonderful job. And if you think of where we were maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, it was kind of the normal early childhood phase of the Arizona campus, and they were struggling to stand and walk and develop everything from faculty handbooks to tenure policies to all those things. And so part of the essence of being a startup school or college is you have to struggle through those things. You have to do those things. Your big brother, your big sister can't do it all for you. And so there was that natural occurrence in our Arizona campus, much like we're seeing, of course, with our Missouri school. It's a brand new institution on a campus, the Missouri Dentistry and Oral Health on a campus of a 120-year-old medical school. And so there's naturally going to be challenges and wonderful opportunities. So at this stage, with a unified strategic plan, with some reorganization of ways that systems flow and information flows, our students creating a university student government, our faculty with a university senate, our staff with a staff committee that spans both campuses. I think great progress has been made. It's very difficult in an urban, 3 hours from a major airport community to change speed and become a 5th or 6th metropolitan large city lifestyle, it's probably unrealistic for it to be a 100% match. But it's a pretty good match, and it's a lot further along than it's been. What we'd really like to do is have people from both campuses visit the other campus, spend time, get to know individuals, because when that happens, that physical presence brings a bond together that we've seen really accelerate that process. Now, the technology, I think, is probably our best source, because we can do that very affordably. We can build relationships through technology. We can administer meetings through technology, and we can use that. And I think that's probably the most economical way for the future. And as Faculty Senate bring ideas forward, as our Unified Student Government brings ideas forward, as our staff bring things forward, we want to implement those things that help us become a university. But just from a scheduling standpoint, I'll just digress for 1 second. You know, in our office, we're looking at a graduation of one program the day before some programs on another campus start, followed by a white coat ceremony. And once again, by getting a universal calendar and universitizing things, you know, it may mean that sometimes people are on different campuses doing different things, and so that takes a little bit away from universitizing things. So we just have to work together and be very understanding. But I don't think there's a person on either campus that doesn't want to see both campuses be successful and do very well, knowing that the success of one is tied to the success of the other. And that I know we're there.
Yep. Another question that came in is, what's the status of the search for the VPAA position?
That's a very great question. I want to thank that committee for getting together and doing a lot of the hard work. I know that they have a meeting this week, and so they're getting together and looking at the candidates. They've had a large number of candidates apply, and that'll be moving forward. You know, my job as president is to stay out of that whole discussion, let that occur naturally, and be respectful of that committee. And I really believe that they'll come up with a great slate of candidates to introduce to both campuses, and going from there. So it's a very well thought out, deliberate process. I think the committee has done a great job. Matt Herron visited the national AOA meeting, once again with the idea of having these discussions with people from other health professions universities that might be interested in the role. And we're doing our best to cast the widest net and get the most qualified person who fits the culture of this university. And you know, it's a unique culture that we'll have to find the right person.
Question that came in. This one is probably a little bit too specific for you to comment on directly, but maybe share some thoughts on it. Is there any talk in the near future about the possibility for tuition reimbursement for staff or faculty, or scholarships for staff? And maybe we can generalize that a little bit more into just training for everyone, professional development, faculty development. We all see the need for increasing our own skill sets.
Sure. So I think the earlier part you were talking about is something that kind of comes to us on a regular basis, and that is there an opportunity to reimburse individuals for attaining of degrees? So someone who may be working toward a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a doctoral degree. And in large universities, it's fairly common because those resources are often there. So people can be added to a class without a lot of expense and without a lot of difficulty. As a graduate health science professions university, we do have some discounts programs within the university, specifically with School of Health Management and others that originally were designed to bring people forward in their degree. And we're always willing to look at that, and I found that our overall community has been very good about providing those opportunities and looking at those opportunities. So probably from an undergraduate standpoint, it wouldn't be feasible for us to take student tuition money and use it toward a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or doctoral degree that would kind of be outside of the university. It probably just wouldn't be wise use of our dollars. But what was brought up to me yesterday by the committee on employee benefits was the idea of partnering with others. And so we're definitely interested in continuing partnerships and looking out there, working with institutions who might give our employees a discount. And once again, most people live in areas where there are community colleges that have, once again, a large array of affordable education, sometimes some of it online in a very great way. You've got Western Governors University that provides a very affordable bachelor's degree in many areas, and some even degrees beyond bachelor's. So I think we can work with some of these institutions, make these institutions known for those who really are trying to move to a bachelor's level or a master's level outside of what we do, working with those institutions to partner or direct them to for savings. Then the other is, how do we promote our development of our internal faculty and our staff? And absolutely, hopefully something like this, which is, teaches technology of the Google Plus and the Lunch and Learns, are really a way that we can access an affordable professional development tool. And using technology, and I see that as one of the ways of the future where it's kind of on demand, customize what you want to learn, and if we can plug into those systems, we want to do that. And I admire this Lunch and Learn, and I think you're leading the way. And so as far as the staff development and faculty development may be a little further on. It's kind of part of their DNA. That's what they talk about their deans with on a regular basis. We have identified is creating some leadership courses for those who go from maybe a professorship, but now also take on a chair. How can we give them some of the leadership support that they need? We're looking at those areas. Also, people within the administration moving into more managerial roles. How do we support them and give them some of the information that they need? So we know that that's something that we're looking at. And also at the staff level, what things can we provide as an institution? Perhaps it's how we deal with some conflicts that might occur in a clinical setting or an academic setting, or even how do we manage our time, how do we manage the phone, those types of things. So as we build the budget next year, we're going to look at some of those ways, some ways to fund those opportunities for our faculty and our staff. And we welcome tools like this that are affordable and do great work. So I think we're moving in those directions.
Great. Couple questions here just to kind of wrap up, a little bit more fun questions. So the first one comes from a KSUM staff member. What are you enjoying most about Kirksville and being president so far?
Well, I'll tell you, the nice thing about Kirksville is you can get anywhere in 10 minutes. The first meetings I was leaving the house, half an hour early, 20 minutes early, and I get there and the doors were locked, wherever I went. And I quickly realized that, okay, I probably should leave about 10 minutes before something's to start. But in a big city, we have to give ourselves, the usual customary half-hour travel time. So that was kind of one of the first things that I noticed was, I'd show up and nobody would be there. And so, I made sure I brought stuff to do, or I arrived a little more closer to time. So that has been, I think, one of the nice things about having the experience in a small community, along with just the fact that people, once again, in small communities tend to know each other. There tends to be maybe a different layer of responsibility for each other, friendliness for each other, looking out for each other. And while we have that in Arizona, within our community as a campus, it doesn't take long to drive off campus and be part of just an anonymous city. And then for being president, what's one of the best parts of being president is being able to serve, being able to meet with faculty and students and listen to some of their thoughts and concerns and their ideas for making this institution better, and then being able to carry that message to staff members who also are very committed to this university, to making it the best that it can be, and hopefully moving things forward in a positive way to accomplish the great mission and vision that we have of this university. So I can't really think about any part of the job that I don't like.
That's great. And I saved the best question, or my favorite question, for last. This came from a Clark. I believe, if I'm guessing correctly, he's from the KSUM class of 2015. And he says, I'm a huge fan of the NBA. If I'm not doing schoolwork, I'm buried in basketball. I heard of your work before Mr. Burns moved on, and now you are here in Kirksville. Are you a fan? If so, what are the chances we could catch a game sometime? 1 in 365?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a difficult decision to leave that community, because in many ways the team, the arena, was like a small college or university, and to have been involved with them for 27 years, you can't leave that without just occasionally looking back and smiling and turning to an NBA game and looking at the people. I saw Vinny last night with the Clippers, and Grant Hill, and some of the others. It's not easy in Kirksville to get to an NBA game, and I don't even have, I think, the NBA channel here, and certainly don't have the big channel on the TVs that I have. So I'm up for a game and trying to blend that in and going to something like that. I think every person should have some hobbies and fun things that they do, and that'll be one that I'll probably be part of my DNA for many years to come. And so I do appreciate that question and those memories. If you come to the office in Kirksville, you'll see that on the wall here we've got picture of AT Still with the only sports team. It's a baseball team surrounded by our picture of our women's teams from both Kirksville and Mesa during the tournament, some powder puff football. You have a picture of the ladies from the class of 1903 basketball team and the ladies from 1906 basketball team. So, this university is very tied to health and fitness, and our programs reflect that. And, I'm lucky that I was able to transition and enjoy that. The days are so busy, to be honest with you, that I don't have time to watch an NBA game or much time to think about it. So that's also been helpful. I haven't had the withdrawal that I might have if I was retiring or something like that.
That's great. I just want to say big thank you, Dr. Phelps, for being willing to do this. I think it sets a great precedent for people to kind of see and play with the technology. It's a great way to communicate. Much appreciated.
Great. Thanks for all the thoughtful questions. Thanks for the time, and thanks to all of our faculty and staff who are out there and our students every day accomplishing that mission and vision for the university. So thank you. It's an honor and a privilege.
That's great. For those of you who are still listening with us, we've got another session coming up in in December. I think this is the last one for the month of November on games and education. We'll talk a little bit with our people in the SOMA program and what some of the projects that they're working on with games. So I think that'll be a real interesting one too. We did the survey. I want to thank everyone for participating in that. There were, I think, over 100 responses. So we're going to shift the time a little bit on when we do these sessions based on the feedback from that survey, and then we're also going to kind of prioritize the different topics for 2013. So you'll see some more sessions coming down. Thanks much. Appreciate it.